Hi, Nancy. Good to see you guys. What's up, B-Man? Hello, Rondo. How are you? Good to see you. What's up, West? What's up, Mark? Appreciate you guys. What's up, Yakov? Roxanne, good to see you. What's up, Jim? Right with you in just a second. Hit that like button on the way in, please.
Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real?
It's a new form of vicious violation to our country.
All right, what do you say we just get right into it? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? How are you? I'm Boston Brian. Welcome back to Blunt Politics, the Blunt Politics podcast. And I really do appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to give me the opportunity to bring you some of the facts, the figures, my opinions, some of the updates, the highlights, the lowlights, whatever you want to call it. I do appreciate you for joining me here. What do you say we bring in the world's greatest chat, the best chat on earth, and we can say hi to everybody and thank them for being here personally? What do you say we do that? There you are. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? My fabulous chat. Hi, guys. What's going on? What's up, Kyle? What's up, Marty? How are you? What's up, Gamer? Appreciate you guys. What's up, Steve? Good to see you. What's up, Ellen? Very good to see you guys as well. What's up, Simon? Silly Willie? What's up, bro? What's up, Eric? Much appreciated. Yeah, we got a lot to discuss today. How are you, mods? Appreciate you. Appreciate you everything you're doing. Thank you for keeping this place a safe place. And thank you for always doing your job in there. I appreciate the time you spend in here. I really do. Oh, thank you, Mark. Already? Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching from Florida. Thank you so much for watching from any state, any country that you may be watching from. I know per the analytics, we do have a substantial, or, per the amount of people we have watching, a pretty substantial amount of people watching from Canada, the UK, Australia, different places. So I really do appreciate you guys taking the time and watching this channel. Again, we're going to be taking a look at a lot of different aspects, as you can tell, pertaining to the shooting yesterday in Minneapolis. Obviously, some new footage to come out. We're going to be taking a look at some of the reaction from the right, from the left, from people from different countries, which I think is something that we, should probably dive into as well, because how are other people looking at this, right? How are people that aren't on the right or the left per se in America, that don't have, a so-called agenda or a so-called wish or a so-called goal in mind, what do they get from the footage that they saw? That's what I want to know. What do normal, everyday human beings see from the footage that we saw? Are they getting the same things that we got, over here, or are they going to defend it and try to excuse it like people on the right are? But what's up, Jen? Thank you so much. Thank you, No Money. What's up, guys? Appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. There's a Venmo somewhere up here where my finger is, where you can just take a picture, $1 or $2, $1, $2. That's all I ask for. Anything above and beyond that's totally up to you. There's also patreon.com/Boston Brian. There's 3 different tiers, 3 different levels on Patreon, in which you can check out to see if any one of them fit your financial abilities. We also, just to kind of get this out of the way nice and early to keep everybody informed, we also have our Zooms tonight. So we got our January 8th as our monthly Zoom going to be tonight. So watch out for that link going out on Patreon after the show. And then the VIP Zoom on the 12th. So anybody signed up at patreon.com/Boston Brian before those dates gets access to the Zooms, in which we just kind of, like I said, shoot the shit, talk about pets, talk about dogs, talk about the weather, whatever it is. Get to, again, put a face to the screen name that you see in the chat. Just a little better way of getting acquainted with everybody. That's about all that is. So thank you so much. But yeah, lots to talk about. Lots of protests all still ongoing that have sparked up yesterday, as we covered. Let me see if I can put this on there. We got a lot to cover. There's so many of these things that I have. It is called protest. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, here you go, right here. Right here. Let me throw this up on the screen for you guys. Sorry, I get so many tabs open and stuff. It's hard to keep track. So obviously, this is just to show you a little bit of the, the unrest, the people that have been, flooding into the streets now all over the country, I should say, not just in Minnesota, but in states and cities all over the country. A lot of which that have the ICE officers and the DHS presence in them, I will say, but still people outraged all over the country, all over the world, as we'll see on the show today, as we'll definitely take a look. But I believe this one is from Minnesota.
As soon as that perimeter collapsed, Boris, what we really saw was people begin to condense onto the law enforcement vehicles, and they were throwing snowballs at them. Did you see that? Can you see that they're throwing it looks like snowballs or maybe chunks.
Right. So again, just one piece of evidence, one piece of footage that you could pull up in any number here. We'll pull up this too, because just if you do a quick search about protests in the area and protests going on, Detroit and other cities erupt in protest over ICE shooting in Minnesota. It goes on forever. Here's another video of another protest, more protests. Protests growing after ICE fatally shoots Minneapolis woman. Breaking protest clash with ICE outside St. Paul. This is protest erupts in Sacramento. I know there was one in Chicago. Here's protests held in Chicago after fatal Minneapolis shooting. I mean, they're all over the place that you can tell people are rightly taking to the streets. I think the majority report was actually covering some of this in, I want to say, in some of these different areas that have been taken on. But just, here's New York City protests going on. Just any number of places that you could point to. This is downtown Detroit. But all over the place, people are outraged, as in my opinion, people should be, absolutely, and rightfully so. They absolutely should be outraged. But let me see if I can pull this up, because I want to see if I can, because this is a new piece of information, not a new piece of information, but something that, people that have been diving through the footage have seen. Here's the exact moment. I want you to see. You know what this guy has in his hand right now? It's not a gun. It's not his weapon. It's a fucking cell phone. He's literally recording on a cell phone like he's a fucking social media star, like he's TikToking, right? On his fucking, like, you don't have a body cam. You don't have other people that probably could do that while you are considered to be in harm's way, right? So again, it might be difficult for you to determine what's actually going on in the vicinity around you. But your awareness of what's happening might be hampered, let's just say, if you're trying to sit there and you're focused on your phone and recording. So he's sitting in front of the car where he shouldn't be, and we'll go over DHS policy and ICE policy on what it requires for de-escalation, what's required for the use of deadly force. We'll look at past precedents set by different cases and what they've determined in these fucking aspects and in situations like this. So all of that's going to be covered on the show today. Like I said, we have a ton to get to, both, like I said, reaction from the right, from the left, people like Greg Kelly, people like James O'Brien and others. So we'll be diving into it. The I've Had It podcast, ladies, Jen and Pumps, have a new video kind of discussing something similar as well. So stick with me, hit that like button. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out. Let's jump into some of this craziness. But yeah, as you can see, I know it's a little tough to tell because I can't necessarily zoom in on the video when it's like that. So that's my apologies. But if you get this in the correct format on your cell phone or whatever it is, you can do the zooming in. I think Maggie, excuse me if I'm getting the name wrong, but you can check her out on Instagram, on TikTok. Maggie did a good video where she kind of blew this up and zoomed in. You can see the guys clearly filming, and you can see even in prior footage that the guy's just kind of walking around the scene and just filming things, right? He's got a cell phone in his hand, much like he does after he shoots the lady in the face and he's walking away from the scene of the crime. He's got his cell phone in his hand again, right? So this guy chronically has his cell phone in his hand. But as you can see here, here's the exact moment we've stopped it, where you can see this gentleman doesn't have a gun in his hand, right? Isn't so fucking concerned about his positioning where he shouldn't even be to begin with that he had to pull out his firearm immediately. Nope, he's filming. He's recording with his cell phone. So that's what he's doing in that instance. And again, just to kind of hammer home this was a Pondering Politics video. I think he just put this out this morning. Josiah just put this out, a couple hours ago, and he's talking to Pisco. And Pisco, if you'll remember, was I don't know if you'll call him he's a lawyer. I don't know if you want to call him a social media influencer, whatever. I don't want to make it sound like a derogatory term, but he was made famous. He had a couple viral clips go viral when he went to Tim Pool's studio and he interacted with 2 or 3 of Tim Pool and his cohorts, and he pretty much just kind of demolished them on, I think they were specifically maybe talking about and referencing January 6th, if I'm not mistaken, but you guys probably will recognize him when you see it. But he sat down with Josiah from Pondering Politics, and Josiah just kind of asked him the obvious questions, right? The legalities, what he sees as a lawyer from this footage. So again, me not being a lawyer and just kind of giving you my opinion from what I saw with my own 2 eyes, what I heard with my ears, and what we're getting from the same footage and all the angles that we could possibly put together, right? I right hand up, not a lawyer, not a legal student, not a law student, right? Not a legal representative by any stretch of the imagination. I can just give you my firsthand opinions, my firsthand accounts of what I'm seeing. based on the information that I know and what I've, in what history has told us as far as precedent and acts of deadly force and justification for. But let's dive into just a couple minutes of this video, if you'll indulge me. I think it's probably within the first 3 or 4 minutes that we kind of get to the crux of the issue here, and he kind of dives into the asking of what he sees actually taking place in this video. So please, let's dive into this. I really do appreciate you joining me. Hit that like button.
Brutal shooting of a 37-year-old American citizen, a woman by the name of Renee Nicole Good, at the hands of an ICE agent. The footage went viral. It has dominated domestic news. It has moved millions of Americans. We are horrified by this. I know I was personally horrified and spent basically all of the day just obsessively reviewing details about this. There was slow motion footage, new footage from different angles. There's so much to unpack here because from a layman's perspective, this looks like a very heinous crime committed at the hands of the state against...
Not only heinous, but incredibly preventable. That is the first thing that everybody needs to understand, is just how preventable this situation was. How many steps, how many actions, how many de-escalatory fucking motions and movements and what rhetoric could have been used in order to make this basically the mundane situation that it should have been. Right? The please move your vehicle, ma'am. Whatever that fuck, exactly, like that's all it should have been. Please move your vehicle, ma'am. That's it. Right? You know what I mean? So again, this is so preventable on so many different levels. And again, we'll go over the tactics used, the protocol in which this guy broke in almost every case. But here he goes on to, again, bring in Pisco and ask him as a lawyer what his thoughts are on this. So I'm curious what those thoughts are, again, as somebody that knows the exact probable legal ramifications of what took place.
An American citizen, which many of us have...
Before we get into it, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Mark, again. Mark, you're unbelievable. I really do appreciate you, man. You've been so incredible lately. Mark says, ICE reports of violence at schools, quote, agents also went onto school grounds, tackled people, used pepper spray and pepper balls, and handcuffed 2 school officials, witnesses told the local outlet. I did see that, and it was like right as they were getting out of school, right as they were getting out of class, if we're talking about the same footage that I also saw too. So yeah, I mean, just it continues, and again, as clashes and as protests continue to pop up all over the country, then more and more of these acts and more of these fucking agents that aren't able to control themselves, much like we saw in this instance, are going to lead to more and more dangerous fucking situations. So let's get into this. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Mark. You've been great, man. I appreciate you, dude.
Predicted would occur given how reckless and stupid the Trump administration has been, to say nothing of how the Trump administration, including the sitting president, has responded. This is a political issue, but it's also, first and foremost, a legal one. And to do legal analysis, I brought in a lawyer, friend of mine, friend of the show, Pisco, of Pisco's Hour on YouTube and Pisco Liddy on Twitter and Twitch. Pisco, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Thank you for having me, Josiah.
Well, look, normally you and I have a lot of fun when we collaborate. Obviously, not much fun to be had today. I definitely want to engage your legal analysis here because I know you've been in the trenches on this. You've done like 2 or 3 streams already, just like hammering the Trump administration, doing deep dives into the footage and the analysis, debating people who have different views. You've been on Twitter doing this as well, replying to people, debunking in real time, engaging with your peers in legal tube or law tube on the conservative side. Let's start with first things first. My understanding is this is what happened. She's a 37-year-old American citizen. She was an ICE protester. She was approached by ICE agents. I mean, we've all seen the footage. It looks like she attempts to flee the scene. And as she
excuse me, we have a ton to cover. Just for the sake of time, he's just basically reiterating, and stipulating what we all saw on the footage. So just for the sake of time, I'm gonna go on to where he basically gets to the question. My apologies.
Approaches the vehicle, are hospitalized.
Proceeding, perhaps we'll get more information, more clarity, but I think that's a decent summary, yes.
So first things first, this is the big question. For a lot of people, it's not a question. For me, it is, just because I'm not a lawyer and I hesitate to use very specific terms. This is a brutal shooting to me. This looks really bad. My gut is that this is some sort of murder or unjustified homicide. Is this a murder or unjustified homicide, or is this self-defense?
In my opinion, it's a murder. And obviously, like I said, facts can change in the context of a trial or in the context of any kind of investigation by a body. But to me, it's a murder. The definition of murder is causing the death of another human being with malice aforethought and without justification. And
And
everyone,
again, this isn't somebody without legal precedent. This isn't somebody without the legal knowledge, right? This is clearly somebody representing himself as a lawyer. Forgive me if I don't know necessarily his, distinct background and qualifications, but somebody clearly presented himself as a lawyer, somebody that knows law, and is saying here that it's not just, and he goes on to stipulate here, that it's not just the first shot, it's all shots that are taken, right, need to be looked at, and they need to be viewed in very specific light on whether or not each action was justified in that moment, and not just the generalized fucking overwhelming circumstance, right? So again, he goes into to be more specific, but just to give you, me not being a lawyer, not having any, legal fucking background, I want to make sure that we're listening to the people that do have the legal knowledge and can tell us with their own words and having the legal background, what they witnessed with their own eyes in the same footage that you and I all saw.
would kind of grant that at least one of the bullets, if not multiple of these bullets, caused the death of the decedent here. And the only real question is what the justification was for the shooting. Law enforcement officers, as well as all individuals, are allowed to use deadly force in response to certain kinds of threats, which we can get into. But that ultimately will be the question, is whether or not there's a good justification. And in my mind, there isn't, based on the review of the pertinent facts.
All right, I really appreciate you saying that. So based on the facts, as you understand them, the available facts now, this seems to be a murder. Is it because of the additional shots into the driver's side? Like, had the shooter only shot into the windshield, would you have considered?
Well, even that now, by, coming based off of pictures of the crime scene, even the fucking single bullet hole that you can see in the windshield of the vehicle does not really go to corroborate anything that the ICE agents were saying. Because even the angle of the shot and where that bullet hole is placed, and even if that it's a single bullet hole and not 3 bullet holes through the windshield, right? Like they'd have you believe, like if you were standing directly in front of the vehicle and fired 3 times, what you'd see as far as the evidence shows you, that's not what we're seeing. That's not what the car showed. That's not what the fucking pictures are now showing. That is evidence and can be seen as far as the windshield is concerned, right? So it's almost like you can see that the other 2 shots were taken, and the first shot was even taken at an angle to prove that he was on the other side of the vehicle anyway.
Did a murder?
I think every shot that was taken here is unjustified. The shots that happened,
every shot that was taken here was unjustified, right? And just to kind of further stipulate, and I just want to show you a couple of these, I'm just going to play a couple instances, right? And I want you to be able to determine, is this a more or less dangerous situation than what those agents were facing? And in every single one of these instances, I think there's 2 or 3 that I'm about to play for you now, 0 shots fired. Zero police officers open fired, and I believe in both instances the person gets away. But I want you to see here, and in what case, from what you saw and what you witnessed in Minneapolis, right? And in the cases I'm about to show you, what is a more dangerous situation? And in which case was it better handled? Was it more professionally handled by these fucking people? And I'm sure these other 2 instances that I'm about to play are going to be like local law enforcement and not the ill-trained fucking militia group people that just have like gun fetishes and love body armor and shit, like these ICE people are fucking now recruiting. But check this out. Here's just one instance that we can point to, and just I want you to see, is there more or less justification, do you think, in these instances for the cops to act aggressively as opposed to what we saw in Minneapolis? Here's just the first one. All right, so just to set up the scene, you got what looks to be a fucking high-powered Corvette, right? You can hear it revving his engine, being blocked in by what looks to be law enforcement, one from behind. You got a vehicle in front, and you got a law enforcement agent off to the left here. You can see him hanging out of his vehicle. This is another law enforcement agent's car, and then I'm assuming there's one off to the right. Now, this guy's still trying to get away. Now there's people in front of him, agents in front of him, and he's in a torpedo, right? We've told this is a deadly weapon. It's a deadly fucking torpedo anytime, regardless what the situation is. If you're in and behind a motor vehicle, right, it's a deadly weapon, right? That's what they want you to believe. Okay, so is that guy not in danger? Is the guy behind not in danger? And we'll let this continue. And is deadly force used here?
Point this out to you guys.
This goes on. I'll let it play again because it even goes on. He gets away from this situation, right? And here we go. We'll let this play. So that's a guy quite literally using his car as a weapon, right? Spinning his tires in aggression, trying to get away from them, literally ramming his vehicle into other law enforcement agencies' vehicles. Were any shots fired? Did anybody open fire? Now, was that guy probably wanted for something fucking far more egregious than anything that Renee was wanted for questioning or wanted to fucking even to speak to for? Guaranteed, but no deadly force used in that one, and the guy actually gets away. Right? So again, wouldn't it have been a de-escalatory fucking action to be like, okay, ma'am, just move your vehicle, or just get out of the way, let her fucking move, and you could have, again, either A, got her license plate information, got it somehow that way, if you thought it was, worth your time to kind of, continue to interact, or you could have got her somewhere else down the road, whatever. You know what I mean? So many different ways in which you could have fucking de-escalated. And here's another one. Here's another aspect. Does this seem like it would be more or less of a case in which deadly force would be used, or in which a weapon would be discharged, right? Check this one out. Here's another one.
Now you just had a wreck. Break glass. Get out the car. Get out. Tires are flat. Stop.
Okay, now, was there more or less people that were clearly in more danger in this situation than ever in any fucking instance in Minneapolis? Ever. And no matter what fucking angle you look at, no matter what side you're on, right? You got people fucking nearly run over, nearly killed, jumping on fucking vehicles. This guy's quite literally on the fucking hood of the cop car, trying not to get run over. Vehicles quite clearly had their weapons drawn. Did they open fire? No, they didn't open fire, right? Because they knew that would probably put other people at risk, right? You got people standing around, much like you did in Minneapolis. So again, if you're trying to protect the public by opening fire in broad daylight with a crowd around and people and bystanders, that's supposed to be fucking saving the public as opposed to letting the lady just drive away in her fucking car. Who do you think you can? Here, one more time, just in case. There's another no shots fired. No shots fired in this.
Now you just had a wreck.
I mean, if that fucking cop car's not there, that guy's dead. Okay?
Get out the car. Get out.
Back up on the hood. So again, I ask, and you can even see the guy fucking reholstering his weapon after he had it drawn. But no shots fired in that one. No deadly force used, right? I'm sure that situation was probably ended in a much less egregious fashion than the woman being shot in the face or a guy being shot in the face, whoever was driving that. Again, I don't know how that finished per se, and to confirm that, but clearly no deadly force was used. Now, I ask you, was that a more or less deadly situation than what we saw? Right? Again, and somebody said, who is that? Yeah, Mimi. Yep, that's their training. To be able to just de-escalate, and you're 100% right. And just to kind of, fucking further bring that home, and great timing on that, Mimi. I very much appreciate you guys. You guys are always well-timed with your comments. Here's just another case that you could look at. So here's a Supreme Court case. Graham versus Connor decided in 1989, established the, quote, objective reasonableness, end quote, standard under the Fourth Amendment for evaluating claims of excessive force by law enforcement officers. So let's read, if we shall, if you'll indulge me. So this is the case summary. Background. The case involved Dethorne Graham, who was experiencing a diabetic reaction when Officer M.S. Connor stopped him, despite explaining his medical emergency, thus being Dethorne Graham explaining to M.S. Connor his medical emergency. Graham was handled roughly by responding officers, resulting in injuries. The ruling, Supreme Court unanimously overturned a lower court's decision which had focused on the officer's subjective intent. The court mandated that excessive force claims during an arrest or seizure must be evaluated under the Fourth Amendment's, quote, objective reasonableness standard, making the officer's subjective intent irrelevant. The standard requires the judging reasonableness from the perspective of reasonable officer on the scene during rapidly evolving situations, not with the benefit of hindsight. And then it goes on for key factors. The court identified several factors for lowering the courts to consider when applying the objective reasonableness standard: the severity of the crime, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to safety, whether the suspect is actively resisting arrest or attempting to flee. Again, we'll go on and look at the rules and regulations on whether or not, and you're not allowed to just open fire on a suspect that is trying to flee. The Department of Justice policy, the principles Graham versus Connor are fundamental to the U.S. Department of Justice's use of force policies. The DOJ requires officers to use only objectively reasonable force to control an incident and basis in its training on the Graham standards. The official DOJ policy on the use of force can be found here. And what do you say if we just go there and check that out? Why don't we? So we can get educated on this. The more educated, the better, right? So again, this is 116.000 Department of Justice policy on use of force. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal background, so this is the research and stuff that we need to do in order to fulfill our obligation to be as informed as possible while making these assessments that we make here. Okay, so you can clearly see here there's background, use of deadly force, de-escalation, right? Affirmative duty to intervene, and another very important one here, affirmative duty to render medical aid. Another one of these policies not followed, as you saw in the video where doctors were on scene, people with medical training were on scene, and they were told not to intervene. They were told not to help. They were told that they had their own medics. And then people were like, okay, where are the fucking medics that you have? Where are these people that you say you have on? But they had nobody and allowed nobody to do any of that, the training and the application. So let's just go into the use of deadly force, if I may, right? Just very quickly. I'll even get out of your way on the screen so you guys can see this. Let me pop this up. I'll see if I can blow it up a little better. How's that? A little better for you guys? All right, let's go through it together. So this is 1-16.200, use of deadly force and prohibited restraint techniques for the DOJ. This is from their policy. This is from their website. These are the guidelines that they go by or are supposed to go by. A, deadly force. Law enforcement and correctional officers, and I'll highlight it just so everybody can read along and be with us. Law enforcement and correctional officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force only when necessary. That is, when the officer has reasonable belief that the subject of such force poses an imminent danger or of death or serious physical injury to the officer or to another person. Okay? 1, deadly force may not be used to solely prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect. Now, even the word suspect is being loosely used here, right? Loosely used here, because what the fuck was she suspected of, right? What she's not a suspect of anything. Basically, at the time, all that was supposed to take place was for them to ask her to move her vehicle, right? So number one stipulates in the prohibited restraint of deadly force may not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect. 2, firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless 1, a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle. Okay, so let's read very slowly here. Let's make sure we get this right. What's up, Peter? Good to see you, brother. What's up, my man? Good to see you. I see you in there. So let's read this. Number 2, very slowly, just for the people in the back. See if I can get this highlighted. Nope, I'm an idiot. I can't even get it highlighted. All right, yes, I can. All right, here we go. You guys are with me? All right, let's do this together. Firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless 1, a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle, or 2, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury to the officers or others, and no other objectively reasonable means of defense appear to exist. That is another fucking huge part, because I'm sure what you'll see is people reading this part only. The vehicle operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury to the officers or others, right? They'll probably read that part to you a lot on the right? But they won't read this next part. And no, but what has to be stipulated is that no other reasonable objective means of defense appear to exist. And in this case, what we saw was A, the guy was filming instead of moving his ass to the fucking side of the vehicle with the rest of his people. And then B, even when he did fucking open fire, even when he could see that the woman was clearly spinning the steering wheel to an opposite direction of where he was standing, right? Because if he's standing in front of the lady, he should be able to witness. And a lot of people are like, well, he can't see the fucking wheels. Well, he doesn't have to see the wheels. What he can see is the lady in the fucking driver's seat clearly doing this with the steering wheel. Right. And if he's here and she's moving the steering wheel this way, then guess what? One could probably reasonably assume that she's not going after him as a target. Right? Which is clearly shown by where he ends up opening fire on the first shot, and his 2 feet are clearly fucking planted firmly to the side of the vehicle, thus determined by the bullet hole in the windshield, and then continued to fire 2 more through the side of the fucking vehicle, through the window, the driver's side window of the vehicle. So to state that there was no other objectively reasonable means of defense or ability to get yourself out of whatever path, and it says here, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle. Let me get out of the way because this is fucking important. I want you guys to see this, right? I want you guys to see this. And I know, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like we're doing good work here just by bringing this up by itself, right? So you have to be able to show a reasonable, objectable fucking means that you had no other way to get out of that situation, which is just not a fucking provable thing in this instance that we saw in this specific case in Minneapolis. It's not. Firearms may not be discharged from a moving vehicle except in exigent circumstances. In these situations, an officer must have an articulable reason for this use of deadly force, right? But this is the main part. Serious physical injury to the officer and others, but no other objectively reasonable means of defense appear to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle, right? That's huge. That's huge. It's clear that he has an A. You know, if we look at other, policy pertaining to the DOJ, right? He shouldn't even have been in front of that fucking vehicle to begin with. Right? You shouldn't be putting yourself in a position where fucking deadly force is your only way out. You should be looking at the situation. You should be looking at your surroundings and saying, hey, okay, where should I plant myself in this situation where A, I'm not, located in somewhere where I'm going to be affected by crossfire, let's say, from my colleagues. That's another thing you got to look at, right? If they open fire, and I'm saying in different situations, there's also situations where police make the call in high-speed chases to not actively pursue that chase anymore, right? Because of the danger posed to the public. So that's another aspect in which people can look at a specific situation and judge it differently based on what's happening, right? Typically, if it's snowy out, you don't want to put yourself in front of a fucking vehicle, right? Typically, if it's snowing out, you know that a vehicle probably can't accelerate quickly like that. You should probably also know that he got out of the vehicle on the other side of her vehicle. If you watch the entirety of the fucking footage and all the compilations, you can get an accurate picture of where he came from, how he walked around the vehicle, and how he ended up where he was. 3, if feasible, it is, 3, if feasible, it is to do so would not increase the danger to the officer or others, and a verbal warning to submit the authority of the officer shall be given prior to the use of deadly force. Warning shots are not permitted, and it goes on to continue to stipulate different aspects, prohibited restraint techniques when subduing a suspect, right? The chokehold, corduroy restraint, yada, yada, yada. But deadly force should not be used against persons whose actions are a threat solely to themselves or property unless an individual poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to the officer or others in close proximity, again, without the officer's ability to remove himself from that situation prior, and not filming with his fucking camera, not filming with his iPhone, not taking the time to fucking get his weapon out of his holster, but taking one step more to the right. And everything, he would have been all, and again, to be able to see that the lady's, again, spinning the steering wheel to the opposite fucking position in which he's standing should give him an indication, okay, this lady's no threat to me. She's not coming after me. She's clearly turning the steering wheel the opposite way of where I'm standing. So, it's crazy to suggest that we don't have like clear policy put in place to tell this guy that he should have handled this 1,000%. And if you go back, right, that's not even it. Because let's go back to de-escalation, because there's another aspect of this that people need to be talking about as well, and we've been bringing up since it started. There's a million different ways in which it could have been de-escalated and handled to the point where deadly force was not even remotely thought about. So here's and this is again DOJ policy. This is not some fucking random handbook. This is DOJ policy. Officers will be trained in de-escalation tactics and techniques designed to gain voluntary compliance from a subject before using force. And such tactics and techniques should be employed if objectively feasible. They would not increase the danger to the officers and others. When feasible, reducing the need for force allows officers to secure their own safety as well as the safety of the public. Right? So you end up saving more people in the long run by keeping a situation de-escalatory as opposed to coming out. And again, there's also been reporting on the ground that we've heard from people in the area that said she was given conflicting commands, right? Somebody had been telling her to move her vehicle. Somebody told her to get the fuck out of the way. Somebody told her to get the fuck out of the vehicle. Others said, hey, and they were yelling other things. So a clear case in which these officers weren't on the same page, causing a case of confusion in which led to their fucking reaction, unprofessional reaction, putting themselves in an unprofessional fucking position and reacting to that unprofessionally and shooting somebody and killing them in broad daylight. So again, a million different fucking ways. And then it goes on to talk about here, right? Here's another fucking aspect that everybody needs to talk about. And again, DOJ policy. This is not, this is not a suggestion. This is not, we wish you would do this. We hope you do this in the field if this ever happens. This is fucking DOJ policy. Officers will, not might be, not should be. Officers will be trained in and must recognize and act upon the affirmative duty to request or render medical aid as appropriate where needed. So again, as we talked about yesterday, when the perpetrator, is no longer a perpetrator, when they're no longer causing a threat to you or themselves, if the weapon has been cleared, if the weapon has been kind of, it's out of the picture, no longer in the picture. But you shot them or they were hurt in an accident or whatever the case may be. You are now, it's your duty, it's your obligation to provide and render medical aid to that fucking person. Exactly what we saw Renee Good denied, right? And we don't know, was it the first, second, third shot? Was she still breathing at the time that people were still filming and wanted to go over there and give her and render medical aid? We don't know, and we'll never know, right? But it's clear to see on these fucking cameras, on this footage, that these motherfuckers were clear in their instructions to not have anybody go help her. And you can hear from multiple angles, multiple videos of people all over the scene saying, I'm a doctor, I have medical fucking training, let me go give some aid. And they say, nope, fuck off, stay the fuck away, we have our own people. And everybody's like, well, where the fuck are they? They're not here, so why don't you let me go help until they get to the scene? And again, they were not allowed that and not afforded that ability. But again, let's not just look at what the right is saying. Let's not just look at what the left is saying here. And we'll go on to look at Greg Kelly, as you can see here. And then we got more from Jen and Pumps on I've Had It. But let's take a look at a couple of these LBC clips, because I think this is very important too on what people that, again, don't have a horse in the fight, so to speak, as a Democrat or a Republican, what they got from this footage. What do they gather from not only the footage, but the propaganda and the lies in response to it by Kristi Noem, by Donald Trump, by the rest of these fucking thugs? And I think that should give us good insight into whether we're looking at this correctly and accurately calling this, a fucking misuse of deadly force, that the guy should absolutely be held accountable and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, that fucking ICE should be abolished and again, rebuilt with different policies, with different fucking members, with different leadership, whatever it takes. But here we go. Here's James O'Brien, and we're just going to play just a couple minutes from a couple different videos that he did. We're not going to get into too much of it, not to get too deep into too many of these videos, but just a couple of these that I wanted to dive into. This one is titled, "There is only one version of events," James O'Brien on the ICE shooting, and then the other one is titled, "These agents aren't properly vetted," and that's where he has Simon Marks come on to talk about the ICE shooting. So this first one is just basically James speaking about it. The next one he has a guest on. So what do you say we dive into this? I really do appreciate you guys for joining me and sticking around throughout this ridiculous nonsense. Please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing, if you like what you're hearing. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers here. It goes a long, long way. Just that one click, just that one fucking click. And 2 clicks, if you hit that like button, go a long, long way in helping this channel. You'd be surprised at how much it does, but it really does help. So, all right, let's dive into it again. James O'Brien from LBC giving us his 2 cents on what on the ICE shooting. So let's dive into it.
Already the next stage of the process will be the people who love the racism trying to blame the murder on the people who hate it. Because that's the way it works. I mean, it's so depressing, isn't it, that you can plot these graphs so completely. It will be the fault of the people who are opposed to largely untrained and unaccountable so-called ICE officers discharging firearms, arresting American citizens, acting with comparative impunity, not having the courage even to uncover their own faces.
And again, this is somebody, not a Republican, not a Democrat, not with the agenda of either side, either squad, either fucking political party, right? This is somebody giving his objective view of what he saw with the footage that also made its way over to the UK and also throughout the world that people are now reacting to. And again, does it match up with what people on the right are saying, or is it more in line with what people that actually have a fucking head on their shoulders are saying in what they saw?
Streets of the United States of America, what you might call state-sanctioned terrorists marching through the streets of cities where they have been deployed for entirely political reasons, often against the wishes of the democratically elected local governments. But of course, you
know what, Jeff? You're a fucking great question. We brought this up yesterday too. Is it normal police procedure to say, okay, I just shot a lady in the face and now I need to be taken off the scene as quickly as possible? Let me see. DOJ policy leaving. Let's see if we can just find this real quick. It's a great question, Jeff, and I appreciate you for putting that in there. Let me see. DOJ policy leaving scene of shooting. Let's see if that brings up anything. Let's see here. Share this tab instead. Let's see. 116. That's the same one that we just looked at. That's the use of deadly force. DOJ releases transcripts on the Brownsing officer-involved shooting guidelines. Let's see if this gives us anything, maybe. Let's see, it is widely accepted that officers involved in shootings or other significant critical incidents require immediate support. The goal of these guidelines, is to provide recommendations to public safety agencies and the mental health providers who provide the service to prepare and respond to the health and well-being of law enforcement personnel following an officer-involved shooting. The guidelines were developed, let's see, limitations. Does it say anything about staying on scene? Many of the recommendations deny officer shooting, but potentially distressing critical incidents and identify those individuals at higher risk. Decades of experience, yada, yada, yada. Pre-incident preparation. Officers and agencies and all those involved in investigating and making official determinations about officer-involved shootings should become educated about the science of human performance factors, yada, yada, yada. What's that? At the scene and immediately following. All right, let me see if I can blow that up. Is that a little bit easier for you guys to see? Let me get my ass out of the way. Thank you, Jeff, for the question. I'll get you out of the way for just a second. Let me make this a little bigger on your screen. How's that? All right. So this is at the scene or immediately following. Immediately after an officer-involved shooting or other critical incident, involved personnel should be provided physical and psychological first aid, emotional support, reassurance to involved personnel, assignment of a companion officer to any officer who is directly involved in a shooting and is separated from others pending investigative procedures. The support should be focused on calming physical and emotional stress and restoring or reinforcing the officer's sense of safety. Inasmuch as officers who did not fire their weapon or often overlooked in the aftermath of a shooting should be mindful after providing needed public safety information. Officers who fired a weapon or were directly involved in a critical incident should be encouraged to step immediately away from the scene and be transported to a safe and supportive environment by a trusted peer or supervisor. So after providing needed public safety information, which I don't think that was that done? I mean, how could you even determine that was done at that point? The guy he walked over, basically fucking took a look at the vehicle and immediately fucking beat feet, right? So even though we read here that to ensure the safety of the officer, he's supposed to be immediately transported away from the scene. It also says after providing needed public safety information. Officers who fired a weapon were directly involved in a critical incident should be encouraged to step immediately away from the scene and be transported to a safe and supportive environment by a trusted peer or supervisor. Let's see here. There's a companion officer of the choice, a chaplain, a supportive peer. Often the best supportive person is a fellow officer who is trained to peer support. If the officer have an immediate need to talk about the incident, they should be encouraged to do so solely with individuals with whom they have privileged communications, attorney, chaplains, licensed mental health professionals, and some stage trained professionals. So it doesn't even look like in this case, even though as stipulated in here that, beyond the point of providing public safety information, which is probably, why he did so, what he was standing a statement in that case. Again, it doesn't specify what that specific public safety information should be, but I don't know if that is immediate. I don't know. It's kind of weirdly written, to tell you the truth. If I do say so myself. Because you think they would have to be required to, again, give some sort of, as it does say, information, but what does that pertain to? What is the public safety information that specifically requires them to provide after discharging their weapon? So again, probably kind of written like this to, again, be purposefully vague in that aspect, if I was to guess. But again, that is the specific, what I could find on the specific, writing and policy about what to do. This is officer-involved shooting guidelines. Again, this is 2013. Maybe it's changed since then. I'm not sure. And again, this does say Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ratified by the IACP, Police Psychological Service Section, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So again, whether or not that pertains specifically to the DOJ or otherwise remains to be seen. This is just what I could find, upon Google searching that specific question. But great question, Jeff. Something that we talked about yesterday. Whether or not that could be used against this gentleman, as well as, evidence to him not sticking around to clearly provide any information whatsoever other than get me the fuck out of here, and how that could be used, I'm not sure. But great question. I appreciate your contributions. Thank you, everybody that sent in. Mark, a couple times. I appreciate you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kim, HR Guru. Thank you to Salty Sly. Much appreciated. Thank you to Jeff. Make sure you guys all stick around, please, to the end of the show as I go through all of the super chats, all of the thank yous, all of the membership milestones, all of the Venmos, and we make sure to highlight and appreciate everybody for sending in their contributions at the end of the show. So please stick around. All right, let's dive back into this.
The online motivated goons and sympathizers will now be claiming that it is the fault of the people that oppose state-sanctioned terrorism that state-sanctioned terrorism is happening. Just watch it. I know, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I bet you, if you have a quick look, that process is already underway. This is all the fault of the people that oppose state-sanctioned terrorism.
And he's 100% right. With no longer being on Twitter himself, he knows enough to know exactly what the fucking rhetoric, exactly what the agenda, exactly what the messaging is being spread on fucking Twitter and on right-wing, chats all over the place, which is, again, this is the left-wing, radical left, terrorist fucking violence that once again perpetrated an attack on ICE. And, we heard the words of fucking Kristi Noem talking about how these people were, she wanted to make it sound like they were digging out of a blizzard in Alaska, and this lady just fucking rolled up on the agents with a couple Uzis and a bazooka and randomly opened fire, and these people had no other choice but to return fire. That was basically the gist of what Kristi Noem said in her first statement. As ridiculous as that sounds, that was pretty much spot on what she fucking said.
And this is all the fault of the people that oppose the arrest of anybody that they don't like the look of.
Yeah, and that's another good point. So, JD, great point. I mean, we don't even know what agency the guy's affiliated with. We don't know his fucking age. We don't know his information. I know there's some fake, and beware of this, guys. I do want to fucking put this out there. Beware of the fake pictures going around. The guy never took down his mask, so any picture that's floating around there, reportedly showing him without a mask on at the scene is fake. It's AI. It's not real. So just beware of that. Just let's stay based in reality and in facts and what we can prove, and not try to, again, distract people with things that aren't real. Just try to do your due diligence and be mindful of those things. But we don't know what agency he's from, and forgive me if that's come out since I went on the air, but as of this morning, no agency. So again, to stipulate what policies he's supposed to be following is pretty fucking difficult, right? We don't know his name. We don't know what was he acting on, what fucking laws he was acting. Who is he? What's going on here? All we know is a masked guy given a fucking weapon and some body armor that blew a fucking 3 holes in a woman's face and decided to beat feet right after that. That's basically the gist of what we know in this situation. But I appreciate you, JD. Appreciate you, man. All right, let's dive back into this. Where'd it go? Here it is. Right there.
Of looking a bit foreign, or not even that anymore. You get shot in the face for trying to drive away from armed officers, securing the knowledge that you haven't done anything wrong. So have a listen to the mayor of Minneapolis responding in very emotional terms to what has happened. It is his name is Jacob Frey, and it is a reminder of what this looks like if you are refusing to ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is this was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of ICE and federal officers that were there at the time. Having them there was only causing more chaos. Having them there was only making a difficult situation even more problematic, and one that, yes, they created themselves. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave. It's on you to make sure that further damage, further loss of life and injury is not done.
We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
And if you saw the show yesterday, this is kind of what I was referencing yesterday when I said, he kind of looks like a defeated man. And again, I'm not taking anything away from, what him and his family have been through. Clearly, it just seems like it's taken its toll. Again, the propaganda spread of Nick Shirley and the threats that came with that and the backlash. And not only that, but again, the Democratic politicians that were taken out, Tim Walz being on that list, thinking about that, the death threats that his family's received. Just, the point that I was making, you can just kind of tell, even though the words that he's saying are meaningful and impactful, you can kind of, it seems like he's a little bit, he's defeated in a sense. And again, I don't blame him one bit for that. And that's not to take anything away from him. That was just, just my what I saw from this.
Waiting to hear back. Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident. But we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this. Please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice.
And then Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland.
And this is what I really want you guys to focus on, not just the, the obvious reaction and the heartfelt reaction that people are having, not only in this country, but around the world, but the reaction to the lies and the propaganda. That's what I want to stress in these fucking clips right here is the reaction to the blatant lies and the propaganda that were clearly spread immediately upon this fucking story breaking. And that's what I want you to pay attention to.
Security apparently watching entirely different footage from that which the rest of the world can see.
ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots.
So I wonder, having listened to that, and I presume you've watched the footage by now, it's on the LBC website, it's everywhere. And the question perhaps should be, why can't they tell the truth? Why do Trump's people have to come out immediately with a version of events that is at the very best completely unprovable? And at the worst, and sadly at this stage most likely juncture, it is absolutely false. You can literally watch the footage, and the claims that officers were in danger are utterly bogus. A woman was shot in the face, an American citizen was shot in the face while trying to drive away from the officers that shot her. And yet you can have someone as important as the Homeland Security Secretary standing up and telling the American people to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears.
And I just want you to pay attention to, again, the utter disbelief, right, that people around the world have, and not only the disconnect in what they see with their own eyes and what they hear with their own ears, and what, again, this government continues to come out and perpetrate as far as propaganda, bullshit, lies, the fucking anything but the truth. And it's immediate, and they demonize and denigrate the people that were fucking victimized, the dead. They're already calling her terrorists, weaponizing this and fucking trying to kill this person and that person. And again, this is another person from outside of the United States saying, that's not what I saw. You can clearly see the footage with your own fucking eyes from multiple different angles, from different cell phone cameras, from this neighborhood, from that neighborhood. They're all over the place with cameras there. You can see it with your own fucking eyes. How you could even suggest that what Kristi Noem just came out and said, and what you put together with what your brain sees are both living in the same reality is fucking like it continues to dumbfound people, right?
It was sadly not her final, most essential command. It's normal business.
Again, I'll dive onto here, and again, if we have, my apologies, I just kind of, let me see if I can go back, because how do I do the last action? I'll put myself back on the screen, because I'm going to go on to his next clip here, because he's got another one, but I just accidentally X'd it out, so I'm going to try to figure out how I can go back here, which I could do by doing this. If you just bear with me for just a second, my apologies on that one. I'm going to go back to just his main site, and I can just pick it up there. No problem. So we just did that one. So let's do, my apologies, right with you. Which one did we just do? The Murder is Simple one? I think we just did Murder Simple. Yeah, we'll do this one. I think it's the vetted one, yeah.
Gathering uniforms.
Put this back on the screen. And away we go. All right. So I'm going to start probably just a little bit in here, because they start to discuss, I believe, Kristi Noem's statements even further. So I appreciate you guys.
To underscore, James, we had a former Secret Service officer on LBC earlier today who was arguing that all this woman needed to do, she was faced by police with guns drawn, ordering her to get out of her car. She just needed to get out of her car. I mean, I think it is really important to underscore.
Just so that you know,
people,
hang on, you may not know this. I don't know how he ended up on LBC, but he's also a contributor to Newsmax, which probably gives you an idea of his credentials and caliber.
And they're speaking specifically about, again, they probably just referenced it, but they had somebody on Newsmax, I believe a former Secret Service agent, but a Newsmax contributor, which gives you an idea as to where his politics lie. They came out and said basically the whole right-wing version of sorry, you didn't comply, so you kind of get what you get, right, is kind of the gist of it. which is, as a fucking egregious as you could possibly have it. But this, I mean, he also goes on to talk about here. I'll just play this from the beginning, then we'll dive on, because he goes on to talk about the protests and stuff too.
Simon Marks joins me live from Washington, D.C. Simon, I don't quite know what question to ask first, so perhaps I'll just be quiet and let you speak for a while.
Well, James, I mean, this was inevitable. I mean, there is no surprise that this has happened. The only surprise in many ways is that it didn't happen earlier.
Did you see that? Did you see that? And again, not to hop from fucking instance to instance, but let me see, because I do believe I have that footage. Yep, let me see. I'll pull this up too, because as you can see here, and I want to make this fucking brutally clear, right? Here's another angle. Remember how I said you can see it from fucking different neighborhoods? You can see it from different cell phones. You can see it from any angle that you want, pretty much. Well, here's another angle that we just came out with, and let me get myself out of the way so you can see. Now, I just want you to tell me, what do you notice? What do you notice about, let's just say, the vehicles that were able to pass? Now, check this out as I play this, right? Check this out, right? Here we go.
And that's when the shots are fired.
So here's one vehicle that you can see, right? That white vehicle that you just saw was passing. So this is the victim's vehicle right here. And I'll go back 10 seconds and watch this. Here we go.
Near the vehicle, then converging.
So this is just as it's going to play again. Let it go through again.
The SUV begins
right?
to move.
So let's stop this here. Let's stop this here. This is when it plays again. So you'll notice the victim's vehicle is going to be right here. Let me know what you notice afterwards.
And that's when the shots
One car passes.
Now, prior to this, the video shows
our victim's
the SUV
car.
had been
Another vehicle passes.
and sideways across the road like that for about...
That's funny, because as we were told, and we'd be led to believe that no vehicles were allowed to go anywhere. It was completely impeding the officers' path forward. But that footage that we just showed there clearly shows, as you can see, vehicles clearly passing. And we talked about this the other day, and you guys brought this up in the chat as well as the footage you can see of Renee clearly just waving vehicles across. And I believe that's the same kind of clip, the same footage, just from a different angle, clearly showing that she was already attempting to turn around. She was already letting people go by. So again, flies directly in the face of what they said that she was trying to attempt in the first place, which is something that is pretty prominent. It's something that we should prominently fucking feature in our coverage of this, as they try to again propagandize and lie right to our face. All right, let me jump back into this one.
Donald Trump has unleashed on this country a military force of masked thugs who have been taking to America's streets.
And again, the fact that somebody not even from this country could be so clear and concise in his rhetoric and talking about what's going on. Listen to this. We have media in this country that will not stipulate what this gentleman just stipulated. This one sentence.
Happen earlier. Donald Trump has unleashed on this country a military force of masked thugs who have been taking to America's streets. In many instances, I mean, 9 separate instances previously, they have shot at people, shooting.
And again, a lot of those discharges and a lot of those reckless moments above and beyond the 9 other shootings that we can talk about. We talked about yesterday, right? We put these on the show. Here's another officer, another ICE agent or DHS or whatever the fuck he is, clearly pointing his weapon at people. Here's another instance that we brought up in which you can clearly see this guy pointing his weapon at people.
Pulling a gun on a family.
Yep.
It happened.
Yeah, there's clearly pointing. Sorry, every time you pause it, kind of
Near the
blurs up. You
Nutbush
can
and
clearly see him pointing his weapon at other people. There was other instances that we put out, and then again, the other 9 instances in which the weapons have been fired and people have been shot. A lot of them relating to and having to do with vehicles and vehicle interdictions, right? Which you'd think might be something that they'd take a look at and maybe change their policies, change their tactics. It's if again we're seeing all of these examples in evidence of people shooting into vehicles like ICE agents. But again, as you put all of this together, we got people in this country that refuse to speak as clearly as we just heard this gentleman from LBC, from, again, not our country, speak about what's happening in the United States. It's a fucking shame that they're so cowed and they're so worried about lawsuits and being taken off the air and being fucking, named in a mean fucking Truth Social post by Donald Trump in 60 Minutes and ABC. What's going on with the ABC right now is fucking sickening. Will absolutely make you puke, from the Marco Rubio fucking fluff pieces, to Barry Weiss's bullshit. I mean, the whole fucking thing is just an absolute and utter atrocity at this point.
and then evading questions later. This is the creation of essentially a police
No,
state.
Sunshine, yeah, and Sunshine Boston says no way this is going to trial. Unfortunately, I don't think it ever was. I don't think that was the hopes or the way that we could determine whether or not this act was righteous, which it absolutely wasn't. Whether or not there was any illegalities into it, because again, we could never trust fucking Pam Bondi's DOJ to do the right thing. You could never trust Kash Patel's FBI to do the right thing. You could never trust fucking Donald Trump and his entire government to do the right thing. So there was no way ever that we were going to come out of this and expect to see some accurate prosecution take place, and whether or not that would be the justification or again the determining factor of whether or not this was right or wrong. It's clearly wrong, but we're not going to sit back and wait till, again, fucking Pam Bondi's DOJ, Kash Patel's FBI, and Donald Trump putting pressure on any fucking court and judge that he wants to makes this go away to be like, oh, well, again, I guess he was right in the force that he used, because we know better. And none of that, I don't think that should even be taken into account. You're 100% right. And again, that's not to say anything that you're saying is wrong. I think you're 100% right, but I don't think at all that should be used as like the determining factor of guilt or innocence, and whether or not this was, again, misused deadly force, right? Inappropriate use of deadly force, and could have been, again, de-escalated, could have been avoided by fucking 20 other different policies, maneuvers, procedures, whatever you want to call them. Should have never gotten to that point, anywhere near that point.
Here, this has been going on for weeks. There was always going to be a tragedy. There was always going to be a flashpoint. But who among us would have imagined it would take place 4 blocks from where George Floyd was murdered by police, an unarmed black man murdered by police in Minneapolis 5 years ago. I mean, this is an astonishing moment for the United States, and let me also say for our own government. If we in the UK were witnessing these events on the streets of countries in the global south, we would be intervening and condemning them. The notion that yesterday we saw, I think, David Lammy present somewhere here in the United States.
How do we have the moral authority? How do we have the moral right now? And again, this is how it's probably going to be used by Russia, by fucking our bad actors and enemies like China. Like, how are now we supposed to have the moral authority, the moral high ground to say that Russia can't lock up protesters in their country for 20 years when we're going around and we have state-sanctioned fucking murders taking place on the streets of Minnesota and all over the fucking place in our country? Again, you can see how the action in Venezuela was used at the UN Security Council by people like Russia, by people like fucking, the representative of China and other bad actors throughout the fucking world. And again, this goes to lend them even more credence, give them even more ammunition to combat the United States with, again, the policies and the procedures and everything that we've been talking about in trying to shut down the bad actors, again, in Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and the actions that they're perpetrating on people all over the globe. So again, this just gives them more ample opportunity to be like, well, you're calling us the bad guys. Well, guess what? Look what's taking place in your fucking country.
Saying how excited he was for Britain and the UK to come together to mark America's 250th birthday later this year, while this kind of thing is taking place on the streets of American cities, beggars belief. And, when you see what Donald Trump said on his social media platform last night, when you hear Kristi Noem, a woman who is only lying whenever she moves her lips, when you see her saying that Nicole Good was a domestic terrorist, it is the beginning of an effort to rewrite the events that took place in Minneapolis yesterday.
Just like they're trying to rewrite what took place in the 2020 election, just like they're trying to rewrite the history of January 6th, just like they're trying to rewrite the history of America, just like they're trying to, do away with the teaching of slavery and what actually took place in the building of this country and the thousands and millions of people that were brutally murdered in order to get to the position that we're in now. They want to rewrite everything about anything they can to possibly make themselves look better. And they're going to continue to try this. And again, it's good to see people all over, like we showed here. I mean, this is just one tab in case you just joined us or joined us late. I mean, any quick Google search or YouTube search about protests all over the country will bring up any number of instances that you can point at today, last night, this morning, this evening, whatever you want to look at. LA, Chicago, obviously multiple places in Minnesota, all over the fucking place, a protest breaking out against the shooting that we saw, against the actions of ICE, against the lies and propaganda of Kristi Noem and Donald Trump. So just beware. That's all I got to say. Beware. To Kristi Noem, to the people of ICE, to all of these motherfuckers out there that think they're going to just have their way and they're going to get away with anything because they've been given permission by Donald Trump and his government. I just say be fucking aware. That's all I'm going to say, and I will leave it at that. But let's get into some of the different reaction. And like I said, if we have time at the end of the show, we can dive back into a couple of these clips. But just to kind of, do the full rounds here, we're going to get some of the reaction here by people like Greg Kelly, and then we'll dive into some of the Jen and Pump's reaction, and then we'll see what other trouble we can get into from there as well. So what do you say? You stick with me? Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I very much appreciate you for being here. Subscribe, please. We're on our way to 20K. It's not that hard. It's one button. All right, let's dive into this. Again, this is Greg Kelly, Newsmax, and let's see what he has to say about what looks like he's looking at the ongoing protests, as well as obviously his thoughts on the actions that took place that we all witnessed. So let me say, this is really quick, less than 3 minutes long in its entirety. Stick with me. Hit that like button. I really do appreciate you guys. Share this tab instead. Here we go.
And it looks like the Democrats are almost begging that they do it. The way they're characterizing this thing, this justified shooting.
No, unjustified shooting by any stretch of the imagination. To say that this guy could have his cell phone out and still have time to put his cell phone away and take his weapon out, but not have time to get the fuck out of the way of a vehicle that he, in some form or fashion determined was trying to kill him, even though, again, he had a clear line of sight of the lady clearly turning the fucking steering wheel away from him. Again, unjustified, not even close to justified.
So clear cut to me. And it's an amazing moment, really, that so many people view it differently than we do.
And again, the fact that he's saying these things, but from the opposite side of reality, is just goes to show how detached they really are, right? To be like, wow, these are the people saying, wow, it's amazing that we could watch the same thing and come out with two totally different fucking aspects and views and determinations on what happened. Well, yeah, you assholes, you're in the minority on this, motherfuckers. There's more people in the United States and around the world that think the same thing about what they saw, and that it was an unjustified fucking murder in cold blood, in broad daylight, of a U.S. citizen that posed no fucking harm and no threat to anybody and could have very easily been de-escalated, let go, right? Instead, what they did was they decided to film, they decided to escalate the situation, they decided to give conflicting orders to the lady: move your vehicle, back up your vehicle, drive forward, get out of your vehicle, stay in your vehicle, put your hands up, put your hands down, fucking drive, don't drive, slide, don't slide, do the electric slide. I mean, they don't know what the fuck they were doing. So in the confusion that they themselves created, they did not do the job that they needed to do, that should have been trained to do, to de-escalate, to not put themselves in harm's way, to come to the determination of what the actual risks were and who was at danger and not at danger and what force was necessarily to be used in that instance. None of that none of that went towards the policy that we just talked about in this show, that we read here, that you can go back and check out per the DOJ website, per the DOJ fucking handbook. Not shooting a fleeing vehicle, not being able to shoot inside of a vehicle, again, if you have ample opportunity to get your fucking self out of harm's way, which he did.
Let's take a look, all right? I just want to take the actual moment with the shots fired.
Okay, so here you go, right there. Here's fucking thank you, Greg Kelly. You know what that is in his hand, where my fucking mouse is, ladies and gentlemen? Do you know what that is? It's not a firearm, I can tell you that much. It's not a weapon, I can tell you that much. What it is a fucking cell phone. It's a fucking cell phone. He's recording. Do you record things? I mean, would you be like, okay, I'm in a deadly situation. I'm in harm's way. What should I do in this situation? Let me pull out my iPhone instead of taking a step maybe to the right that could get me out of this situation. And again, look at the position that he's in. Look at the position that he's in. Now, if Renee Good is sitting there, as we know she is, because we can see the fucking wheels on the ground turn, steering the fucking wheel away again from where this guy's standing, Couldn't he come to the clear determination, okay, I could continue to step this way, and she's clearly not coming after me. I'm clearly not a target. Her goal is to get out of the situation and not to harm us, right? That could be a very quick determination by somebody in a skilled position that is well-trained, but not somebody that say, hey, let me fucking film this. Okay, nope. Let me not film it. Let me put my phone away and take out at the same instance my weapon instead of, again, just getting out of this situation that I should have been in the first place.
She was bothering them all day long. And then
so there you go. So now he makes the determination right there. Okay, I'm not filming anymore. And instead of putting the phone away and fucking just moving away as she's again turning the steering wheel away, you can see the wheels are now in a different position. That doesn't happen without fucking steering the fucking wheel, right? But you can see he's just starting to raise his weapon right here. Just starting to raise his weapon. We'll continue. He plays it slow.
Cooperate.
Now it's fully raised. Wheels cocked to the right. Wheels cocked to the right. Should still be able to see. Should still be able to see the woman steering away from him. Correct? In this instance, nobody has a better view than he does.
To run over this guy.
Okay? Still hasn't been discharged. Here's one foot, and here's the other foot you can see through the leg. So clearly on the other side of the vehicle already, no shot fired.
And she gets shot.
Shot right there. Where's his feet? Where's his feet? Here's left foot, here's right foot. Here's left foot, here's right foot. Where's his feet? How is that in front of the vehicle? And again, as you can see right where the mouse is, this is where the fucking bullet hole, you can see clearly determined in the pictures and the footage of the vehicle afterwards, after it crashed. That's where the fire, that's where the hole in the windshield is. Again, to the side, over the hood, like this, not in front of the fucking vehicle.
I would never in a million.
And again, still firing to this moment.
In years, not
fire it again, right there. Just fire it again.
Comply with the police.
Last shot
officer.
right there. So again, he's quite nearly behind the entire fucking vehicle at this point, still discharging his weapon. And again, I don't know, has it been determined 3 or 4 shots yet? I know I've heard 3, I've heard 4, kind of go back and forth. Yeah, Jim says you can't expect him to do 2 things at once. I mean, yeah, God forbid we expect the people in a fucking with deadly force that have been given weapons to be able to, again, fucking eat and chew, walk and chew gum at the same time. God forbid we expect that. I know you're being facetious, Jim, and I'm only kidding with you, but I mean, just the fact that he's playing this in slow motion and then it's going to try to come to the determination opposite of what we're all witnessing right now just goes to show you the disconnect between Republicans and people on the left side of the aisle right now. It's just, and again, normal, everyday people not engaged in politics that watch this see the same thing that we're all seeing, not what the Republicans are seeing.
Sir, when I was parked in the street illegally, I just can't imagine acting like that. I also can't imagine.
Well, I'm guessing, can you imagine being parked in the street illegally and somehow that leading to fucking deadly use of force? Just can I throw that one out there? If you park illegally in the street, do you ever think no matter what the fuck you do in that instance, it's going to come to deadly force being used upon you? Because it's almost like they're like, oh, of course, deadly force. I mean, it's deadly force. She was illegally parked. I mean, that's why wouldn't you use deadly force?
People seeing this videotape, seeing the evidence, and I mean, really the reaction today reminds me a little bit of the O.J. Simpson situation. Remember that?
The O.J. Well, wow. How is he going to put these two together? How is he going to fucking string these two together? All right.
1995, 30 years ago, the verdict. Black people thought he was not guilty and they cheered. White people generally thought he was guilty and they moped.
Is that how it went down? Not quite sure that's how it went down. That's probably how a racist would view how it went down. That's somebody with a bigoted view of how this country works, probably suspects how it went down. Somebody that loves to generalize the thoughts, opinions, and views of black people probably would think how it went down. But in real life, to think that every black person thought that OJ was innocent and every white person thought he was guilty, I'd say that's a pretty overgeneralization that gives away exactly what you think about both categories in that situation.
It's not over racial lines today. It's over political lines, right? People.
And again, the more he shows it, the more it proves exactly the words coming out of his mouth
the world
wrong.
Totally different.
Right? Now, the car moving at exactly 0.0000001 miles an hour at this point, right here, right? Again, not posing. And another question is, all right, you're an officer. Let's just say you're an officer, car's traveling at you head on 25, 30 miles an hour. Is there reasonable suspicion to believe that if you open fire on that person driving that vehicle, that it's going to stop the vehicle? Right? Is that vehicle going to be like, oh shit, my drive is dead now, let me jam on the brakes myself? Or is that vehicle still, going to continue at you? But again, when you're that close, when you're up that close onto a vehicle, right? Again, putting yourself on the driver's side headlight, if not directly to the side of the driver's side headlight, you have the most ample opportunity, the best opportunity at that point to just easily get the fuck out of the way. As opposed to, again, if that was traveling 10, 15, 20 miles an hour and you're directly in front of it, that gives you a more difficult position. But even then, discharging your firearm and shooting the person driving isn't going to stop that fucking vehicle from coming at you. So it's not even a reasonable thing to suspect anyway in that fucking instance, even if you did believe that your life was in some sort of danger. Again, but a well-trained person would recognize the environment. Okay, it's snowy, it's icy. This person's probably not going to be able to accelerate quickly, right? Again, it's snowy, it's icy. Maybe I shouldn't put myself in front of a moving vehicle or a vehicle that's on that I don't know, the person driving very well. That's just another thing, because these vehicles parked on the other side. He could have very easily walked behind the vehicle, got on this side, or stayed on the other side of the vehicle and stayed out of fucking harm's way totally. But no, he presented himself in this position with a cell phone in front of, focused on the cell phone instead of focused on the surroundings, and then immediately went to pull out his weapon, then got out of the way and still fired his fucking weapon. That's exactly what happened.
Now look at this still picture of the event. The ICE officer just
Go ahead. What's he going to say?
Just before he draws his gun. That car is driving in his direction.
It's a still photo, you stupid motherfucker. How are you supposed to, in a still photo, be showing us that the vehicle is driving at him? You absolute fucking tit. What a fucking pillock. Here is this still photo, and what I want you to recognize is how fast that vehicle is now driving at him in a still fucking photograph. What is the arrow pointing at? The guy's head, right? Again, clearly, as you can see, if he was directly in front of that vehicle, there's no way you'd be able to see his holster. You wouldn't be able to see his holster. So just the fact that you can see him discharge his holster means that he has more of his body on the outside of that vehicle than in front of that vehicle. Or at least a portion of his fucking body is now on the other side of the vehicle, because I can see it. If it was in front of the vehicle, if he was in the middle where the badge of the vehicle is, let's say, the hood ornament, you wouldn't be able to see his fucking holster, would you? But you can see it. You can see him discharge at this moment, which is telling me, that holster, to where I can see, is definitely already on the other side of that vehicle.
And you see the officer who's at the window. Well, that could drag him, possibly.
Yeah, exactly. Another ill fucking trained asshole. You know what you don't do is reach into a fucking vehicle that's in motion because of the same reasons that you just said. And I believe it's actually fucking policy and standard in a lot of fucking agencies to not reach in to a vehicle like that, so as to not get dragged. So again, they're breaking their own procedures and rules, putting themselves in harm's way, escalating the situation from 0 to 1,000,000 right off the bat. And we're not supposed to be here and be like, oh yeah, no, they did everything perfectly. They did, everything spot on. Blame the lady for trying to get out of this situation and getting shot. And again, nothing that he's suggesting here, nothing that he's trying to prove, he's actually proving. Nothing. You can see him discharge his weapon in this angle. What does that tell me? I would not be able to see him discharge his weapon if he was directly in front of the vehicle. Now, would I?
The officer who fired the shot, we understand, maybe last year it was in a similar situation where somebody drove off and he was dragged about 50 feet and was seriously injured.
Now, how is that? Have we heard any? I'm just curious. How does he know that? Does he know the information of this guy? Does he know the identity? Have we heard the identity? Let me see. Minneapolis shooter identity. Star Tribune says, let me show this on the screen. Star Tribune identifies ICE agent who fatally shot women in Minneapolis. Jonathan Ross was dragged in a separate. So yeah, they did. Well, this says the same thing here. Elaine says, I'm not quite sure what you mean if they're talking about, what the officer's saying or what Greg's saying. But this is the Minnesota Star Tribune. Let me see if I'll blow this up on the screen just a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, easier for you guys to see. How's that? A little better? I'll even get out of the way. So Star Tribune identifies ICE agent who fatally shot woman in Minneapolis. Jonathan Ross was dragged in a separate incident last year by a fleeing driver, according to court records. Can I get out of this? How do I get out of this? That's it? Oh, you got to register. It's one of those things. Here, let me see if I can get a different. One. Let's do the times. Officials dispute federal account of yada, yada, yada. Here's what to know. Do they talk about the guys? Do they talk about his identity? Let me see here. Identity. Let me see if I go back to the Intercept, maybe. ICE agent who shot Nicole Good identifies as Jonathan Ross. Identifying the shooter in Minneapolis, the Intercept found a photo of captioned John Ross in Iraq, posted by a man noted in public. Let's see here. Can you guys see this? Are you guys looking at the same thing? Yes, you are. The Intercept has identified the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent who shot and killed an observer in a residential neighborhood of Minneapolis on Wednesday. Jonathan Ross, a deportation officer based out of the agency's field office in St. Paul. Ross, 43, fatally shot 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good during a confrontation between protesters and federal agents. I don't even see how you could call that a confrontation between protesters. I really don't. According to court documents, an unrelated case, Ross had been with the agency since 2016. In June, he was injured in a traffic incident while apprehending Roberto Carlos Munoz, Guatemala, an undocumented man later convicted of dragging Ross with his car. The Minnesota Tribune was first to publicly identify Ross in a brief article naming Ross. The local Fox affiliate quoted Department of Homeland Security spokesperson confirming that the agent involved in the shooting was the same agent dragged by Munoz, Guatemala in June. The New York Post ran a story referencing Ross's dragging incident, but did not name him. The video footage from Munoz's incident shows a beige Chevy Tahoe from the same SUV model in the scene parked close to Good's dark red SUV before the shooting. What's this? This is about the incident, the dragging. ICE agent who opened fire on Renee Good was dragged and hospitalized by illegal immigrant driver last year. Let's see here. The ISO, yeah, we just read that. So you know what this tells me, right? You know what this tells me is maybe they should do some fucking better vetting to people that have had like extenuating circumstances happen to them on the job, right? Maybe you shouldn't be so quick to give these people back their fucking weapons. Maybe some psychological evaluations and whether or not they could actually handle the pressure going forward for whatever reason should be, better evaluated than rather than, again, sticking them back on the fucking spot, back on the scene with a gun in their hands to have this same thing, similar situation happen again and maybe them react in a way they shouldn't react to. Just like when you hear, we saw in the policy that we read earlier, if somebody's involved in an officer shooting and they discharge their weapon, there's certain protocol that they have to go to and go through afterwards to make sure and determine they're okay, they're able to be put and fit, they're fit to be put back on the job. Well, maybe that DHS and maybe ICE and their policies and maybe the way that they evaluate the people that have, extenuating circumstances happen to them on the job or off the job, maybe they should be looked at again. Because something tells me that we can determine that because of his past history, he didn't handle this situation properly, along with his fellow agents. What's their excuse for, again, escalating the situation from 0 to fucking 700 right off the bat? Were they also dragged? Huh? Or were they just pissed off that people were protesting and making their job a little bit more difficult and they just saw red and decided to fucking want to pull this lady out of her vehicle while also telling her to keep it moving, while also telling her to back up, while also telling her to shut the vehicle off, while also telling her, multiple other fucking commands. So what's the other excuse for the other people in this that again escalated the situation and didn't de-escalate the situation?
Look, overall, big picture here, and we'll go back to the video in a little bit. There are how many illegal aliens in America? And that's
no. You don't. Whoa. You don't just get to fucking just totally switch the fucking the segment here. And that 25 million illegal, is that Donald Trump's number, or is that the number that's being put out by the people that actually know the appropriate number? You know, just switch it up here.
Estimated 25 million illegal aliens. And a lot of them got into the country, well, under Joe Biden. Right?
And I'm sorry, was Renee good? Was she one of those illegal? Like, what does this have to do with whether or not that fucking officer discharged his weapon and used deadly force within the confines of the law? What does this have to do with anything?
Encouraged, actually encouraged. They saw future voters. They saw cheap later. Whatever happened,
yeah, we saw here. Cheap later. Did you? Yeah, cheap later, not labor, later. And again, this is him trying to do the whataboutism here, where it's like, oh, don't look at that situation that everybody's talking about over there. What you really need to look at is this fucking footage from 3-4 years ago from when Biden was president. That's what you really need to look at. All right, let's take a look at this next reaction to it. And again, that was the reaction from an asshole on the right. Let's see what the reaction from people more towards the left side of things, the right side of history, are going to say, and how that aligns with, again, James O'Brien and these other individuals that seemingly have a brain in the head that's on their shoulders, and can accurately pinpoint and discuss what they saw in this footage from Minneapolis. All right, let's take a look at this again. Jen and Pumps, and this is MAGA psychopaths try to justify murder of American citizen by ICE. Protests erupt. Let's take a look at this.
Funded, thugged, masked group masquerading around the United States as though they are ISIS. These are the behaviors that Republicans used to be horrified by during the post 9/11 world, when they would show images of Al Qaeda and images of ISIS with hostages and masks over their face, and how chicken shit it is to have a mask on your face. And
Jen, I disagree. I think it's a possibility, but I got two words for you. Kyle Rittenhouse, right? We said the same thing about Kyle Rittenhouse, where, oh, don't worry, the footage is there. He'll be dragged and called out the rest of his life. And to a certain extent he is, but that doesn't mean he hasn't profited fucking handsomely. That doesn't mean he's not going to be propped up by the right as a hero. That doesn't mean he's going to be used as a fucking living martyr to be used on right-wing podcasts and, all of this fucking shit coming up. So, I don't really have the same amount of faith that it's going to be as egregious as you think it's going to be, and it won't be profitable to some extent for him for being this, again, hero, highlighted and fucking hoisted up by the right. But, I hope I hope to some extent that he will have fucking zero peace for the rest of his days, as he deserves.
Now this American Gestapo has killed an innocent person in cold blood, executed her, and the government is propagandizing that she is the terrorist. And the propaganda from this administration came out almost instantly. But this is immediately after this woman was executed in cold blood with taxpayer-funded money by a group like Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, and a bunch of other sociopaths. A physician tries to go in and assist this woman. And this is how he is treated. And I want to warn you before we go into this image, you can see the woman doubled over her steering wheel. So it is somewhat graphic, but we cannot sandwash or whitewash what this execution by the United States federal government was. Play the clip.
Can I go check a pulse? No. Back up now.
And again, I'll stop it somewhere else. I'll stop it right there. My apologies. I didn't mean to stop it there. But you can clearly hear, can I go check a pulse? I have medical fucking, training. I can help. And this is the clip that we're looking at depicting here just to kind of set this up.
Hey, listen, I understand. We got EMS coming. I get it.
First off, the other one says, I don't care. He says no right off the bat. Then he says, I don't care. And then this guy with a little bit more, civility tries to say that they have their own paramedics. They have their own people for that. And then again, where the fuck are they? It doesn't matter if you have your own people, if they're not immediately on the scene there to provide that medical aid needed at that specific fucking time. And again, why you wouldn't let somebody over to provide a medical aid is egregious in my opinion, right?
Seconds. We have medics on scene. We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they? How can I relax? You just killed my fucking neighbor. You caught butter in the fucking face. You killed my fucking neighbor. How do you show up to work every day? How the fuck do you do this every day? You're killing my neighbors. You're stealing my neighbors.
And again, look at them. Every single one of the agents is is at least 35 fucking feet away from the victim. Not a single one of these motherfuckers over there trying to give and render medical aid, life-saving assistance, whatever it may be. And in that moment, if it's even fucking possible, right? But not a single one of them is around there even trying to check it out. They're more worried about the crowd and keeping them back so they can't take pictures and see and get footage than they are about anything else and trying to save this woman.
Fuck, man.
Pops. You know, when she says, how do you do this every day? How do you get up for work and do this every day? They like it. They want to feel like big, strong men. So they put on their masks and all their tactical gear and they go shoot unarmed citizens because I think they're sadistic.
Well, they need to be. Somebody said they're not trained. Sorry, let me see. Somebody said they're not trained. Yeah, married. No, none of them are trained in CPR or first aid. Well, it's literally a DOJ policy. It's literally a stipulation in most, if not all, law enforcement agencies that you are in that fucking next instance from them going from, you know, an enemy combatant to a victim to somebody that you need to render first aid to. You are required in that instance to give them whatever first aid you can provide. I'm not a medical responder. I'm not a first aid person either. But if I was on the scene, I'd do everything in my fucking power, everything that I could possibly gather from my health classes, from whatever the fuck that I've been through in my experiences to render whatever first aid, cover the wounds, stop the bleeding, whatever you can fucking do in that instance, you'd think you'd be trying to do, whether or not you trained for it. That's just human instinct in my eyes, especially knowing the policy. If you know the policy and have read the handbook of what you're immediately supposed to render after this fucking instance and these actions take place, then then you shouldn't be in the job. You shouldn't be on that fucking job. If you don't know first aid, if you don't know CPR, then you shouldn't be on there because the policy stipulates that that's exactly what you're supposed to render after this situation takes place. And again, that's not anything against your comment, Mary. You're 100% right in that case, I'm sure, if that's why they weren't doing it. But that doesn't excuse the actions. And I'm not saying that's what you were trying to get across. I just want to make it very clear that why I'm addressing the comment. That's all.
And I think when you advertise $50,000 bonus to sign up for ICE and you get the bottom feeders of the world that have no moral and no ethics, no respect for humanity, and they're so easy to dehumanize people, they like it. The reason he gets out of bed every morning is he fucking likes it.
This is it gets even more disturbing. Here is NBC News reporting from eyewitnesses on the scene. Here's a quote. She says, watching a woman die.
A good one. I didn't even watch it this far in, but here's another one. Here's that picture that I was talking about earlier in the show, accurately depicting and showing you, where that bullet hole is in relation with the windshield, right? So again, you can see the angle. You can tell by the curvature of the windshield what the angle was of that fucking first shot. Now, does it look like that first shot came from directly in front of or to the side of that vehicle? Seriously, serious question. Serious fucking question. Knowing about the curvature of the windshield, right? Knowing about what it looks like, just looking at this picture, as hard as it is to tell, you can still tell a lot about the angle of entry of that fucking bullet and where you'd need to be standing in order to get that to happen. And I can tell you right now, it isn't fucking directly in front of or anywhere in front of that fucking vehicle. You need to be to the side, at the very least, reaching over to some extent. That's it. And again, the other two shots that took out that were directly on the side, I would assume, and again, I haven't seen this reported. I'll be very open and honest and upfront about it. I haven't seen this reported, but to the best of my knowledge from what I've seen, I would assume that it was, if not this first one, the two shots after that actually, were the sorry for lack of a different term, kill shots in this instance, right? It's tough to tell, again, the direct angle of that one, but it almost seems like that would be going more into the vehicle. Again, depending on which way she was leaning and how she was in the vehicle, that would have to, again, be stipulated and determined as well. But, to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my ability from what we're looking at here, give me a little leeway. you could almost determine that the second other shots taken directly on the side of the vehicle were the ones that were actually the ones to be the fatal shots. And again, if that's been reported otherwise, please stipulate in the comments, and I will be more than happy to put that reporting up. I'm just going based solely off of the knowledge and what I've seen so far. I want to be very clear.
Changed my life forever. The eyewitness says they carried her body out just like by her limbs. They didn't even have a stretcher. She was carried out like a sack of potatoes.
And that's another thing. You guys are on point today too, because somebody just said, why did they keep shooting? Who was that? Bobby Music says, and why the fuck did he continue shooting at her? And again, whether or not it was the second part is true or not, again, I can't be in, I don't know the mindset of the human being. Again, I'm not going to be able to accurately determine what he was thinking in that moment. But as to, your first section of that statement, why the fuck did he continue shooting her? And we heard in this first clip that we watched, and again, if you joined us late, I do apologize, but we took a look at this clip here from Pondering Politics, Josiah over at Pondering Politics, who had Peace go on to talk about, as a lawyer, what he saw in that footage. And again, as he talks about in this clip, it's not just the first shot. It's not just the general situation that you need to look at. Every single individual instance, every single individual action, every single individual pull of that trigger needs to be determined whether or not that act at that specific moment was justified in the action, right? Not just the first shot, not just the second or the third, all of them, right? Was he still in danger at that time of the third shot? And I know other people are going to stipulate that it doesn't matter how many shots are fired or where they're shot from. I find that to be utterly fucking preposterous and ridiculous, right? I know there's lots of instances in which fucking, police forces have gotten away with dumping, 80, 90, 100 rounds into a suspect, right? And come out and fucking bragged about it. I know that's happened. But in this instance, you need to be fucking damn sure that every time you pulled that fucking trigger, you squeezed the fucking round out, that you were actively justified doing so. And not just the overarching situation that they, again, escalated themselves into the situation it became. So again, you guys are on point in the chat today, and I very much appreciate you guys and your contributions every show that we have, because you guys make this a much better experience for me. You educate me all the time. You keep me on you keep me on my toes, and I thank you for it. I really do. All right, let's dive back into a little bit of this, and then we'll get into thanking some people.
And what I'm worried about here is now Stephen Miller.
You guys are doing so well. I'll never be able to get into this. And that's another great point. Kay on Twitch says, KTV Live says taser, rubber bullets, etc. Nope, just straight murder immediately. Again, so many different ways in order to de-escalate. And again, even if it did escalate further than what you wanted it to, there's other ways. So many different other ways to handle that situation. And again, even beyond saying a tase or rubber bullets or anything to that extent, pepper spray or anything, just let her go. Let her fucking go. What is the crime? What is the egregious act, right? Is she a triple homicide suspect, right? That you just can't allow to let out of your sight? No. She's, and again, it's been alleged, and this is not confirmed, but this is what they're alleging to stipulate why I'm saying this. It's been reported that she was an observer, a legal observer. There's ample footage to show that cars were going around her and that she was trying to execute some sort of turn in the road. But it's been alleged by the other side that she was kind of following and allegedly trying to harass or impede, right? Even if that was the case. And again, I'm not stipulating that is. I'm just, to for the sake of argument's sake, even if that was the fucking case, there are so many. Just let her go. Let her go. Get the license plate, like I've said. Catch up with her down the road. Catch up with her at a later date. If she's been following you, should know her intent. And if she's been around, all morning and you recognize her in the vehicle, then you should know that she has no fucking harm, intended for you guys. Or she's not trying to run you guys over. And it's more just to try to make your life a little bit more difficult. And again, not stipulating that what was going on. I want to be crystal clear. Just pertaining to, and again, stipulating their fucking end of the argument doesn't justify anything that they say it justifies anyway. That's the point of bringing that up.
He started with immigrants. They hyper-focus on Haitians, or they hyper-focus on Somalis. They also are terrified. Stephen Miller is triggered by the liberal white woman. And this woman has in her profile her pronouns. Of course, Laura Loomer's already all over this, like we predicted yesterday in our live. And they dehumanizing in the demeaning of the LGBTQ plus community because of this woman's sexual orientation is going to escalate. And they are going to dehumanize her more and more. And this administration.
Well, Bob, and again, I don't know the direct sentiment of the comment, but it's like you can at one point be not surprised. And again, the people on the left that were predicting this type of stuff, that were predicting this type of downfall, that were predicting this type of fascistic takeover. Again, it's one thing to not be surprised, but you can also be shocked that it's taking place in your country. Like I think there's two different levels to it. And, some people, and I'm not saying that this is what this comment is addressing, but I have seen it in multiple other places, like, oh, fuck, you're not surprised. It's like, no, obviously, if you've watched the show, we're not surprised as to, the actions and how people are acting, but you can definitely, on a broader sense, be surprised and be shocked and still be dismayed that it's your country that it's taking place in. This is the United States of America that we're seeing this in, right? So we predicted it. We knew it was a possibility. It was only a matter of time in terms of the violence and the lawlessness of ICE agents. Again, especially when you look at moments as we continue to bring up like this, right?
Claire area.
Just to drive it home, this guy
officer pulling a gun on a family. It happened near the
pulling a gun
Nutbush.
on a family there. There's this one that we continue to bring up as well that we can play again for everybody of the cop just blatantly pointing his gun at the crowd. Right there. There's another one where ICE agents bust out of a car and point their weapons directly at a family in a car behind them, busting the windows out. So again, we could talk about this and be like, hey, you're not surprised, and you called this, and it was always something we were to expect, while also looking at the bigger picture and saying, hey, my grandfather or great grandfather fought in a world war, right? To make sure that we had the freedom, to make sure that we had democracy and the ability to fucking vote in and elect the people that we saw fit, that we're going to do and have our best interest, right? To uphold and defend democracy on a global stage, to remain, the people that would go around and make sure that autocrats and dictators couldn't go and brutally murder people. To think that you're now seeing this in this country, on one hand, to not be surprised is one thing, but, and to call it is another. Instagram has disconnected the stream. Why would Instagram disconnect my stream? Let me see if I can put that back up just for the last couple minutes. I don't know why that would go down. Did I say something? Just give me a second. I have to go to Instagram now because they're a pain in the ass. Did I say anything bad? What did I say? Typically, Instagram's pretty good. They don't usually take your stuff down, so I doubt it was anything like that. Maybe it's just a glitch. My apologies. I'm just going to get this, going to retitle it and put it back up just for the last 10, 15 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. Copy. Paste. All right. Yes, it's public. Then I got to copy this. They make it such a pain in the ass to do this. I apologize. Here we go. Paste, and we should be back up on Instagram in 3, 2, 1. Back up on Instagram. All right, sorry about that. My apologies. I don't know why. I just got a notification saying that it went down. All right. Let me remember where I was. Let me recall where I was. We'll dive back into this.
We no longer have a civil society. We have a bunch of broken thugs running the federal government. We have a dementia-ridden dipshit at the top who is clearly not all there. He can't pass his cognitive exams. And Stephen Miller is running the show. Stephen Miller is Donald Trump's boss. And nobody elected Stephen Miller. And this is his big fantasy. This is like porn for him. And you're going to see from Fox News and all of these others, the dehumanization of a fellow American. And the fact that the United States is so civilly destabilized right now has been the goals of our adversaries for a very long time. And they have had assists by the immigrant and corporate welfare queen, Elon Musk, who gets all of these government subsidies, who doesn't pay his fair share in taxes to game the algorithms. This man is on his social media website nonstop with grievances, victimhood. He has all the money in the world. And he goes on and on and on about immigrants. And I just want to remind everybody that Elon Musk is a fucking immigrant. And
Amen. Amen. And again, just to drive this point home, we did bring this up earlier. And again, if you joined us late in the broadcast, please go back and rewatch the show. Please make sure you like and subscribe. But, just to further drive this point home, just to look at these others, just random situations that I found that I just went on the internet and I was like, okay, let me see if I can find something in which, properly trained law enforcement actually withheld using deadly force in a much more dangerous circumstance, in a very similar circumstance where somebody is in a motor vehicle, again, used as a fucking, we've heard it used as a torpedo, as a fucking, it's a death trap, it's a 4,000-pound missile type of shit, right? Okay, well, let's bring this in. Let's throw this back on the screen, if I may, right? And take a look at this, because this is one instance. So if this is a more or less deadly situation, or a more or less dangerous situation than what we just saw, and recognize how no deadly force was used.
I want to find it. So anybody who can find that footage.
Ready? I'm gonna go skip forward. Here we go. Check this out. So there's a guy in a high-powered Corvette surrounded by law enforcement, pinned in by vehicles, actively trying to accelerate and use his vehicle as a weapon towards other vehicles, towards other law enforcement. You got a guy over here you can see. You got a guy that was hanging out of a vehicle over here. You got a guy hanging out of a vehicle over here. You got a cop in front of him. This guy's got his weapon raised. It looks like, it's hard to tell, but it looks like he's got his weapon raised. Any shots fired here? Oh, and he gets away. So that guy that was probably wanted for, I don't know, some sort of active crime, suspicion of an active crime, as opposed to what Renee Good was actually fucking wanted for talking to, I guess, on that level, actually gets away here. No shots fired, nothing like that. And then to drive the point home even further before we get into thanking some people, check out this fucking instance. Now, does this seem like it's more or less of a dangerous situation in which what seemingly seems to be properly trained law enforcement don't actively use what could be justified as deadly force in a situation where people are actively in danger from a bigger, much larger vehicle that is actively being driven at people? Check this one out and tell me, why no shots fired here?
Now you just had a wreck. Look out! Break glass, break glass, break glass. Get out the car. Get out. Get out. Tires are flat. Move. Come on.
Oh, again, I ask, and it even goes on, and here, puts it in reverse, rams the car again. Check it out. Ready? Okay, there's another active ramming of a police vehicle. And again, does this end in shots fired? Smoke from the tires coming out. But again, where's the use of fucking deadly force? And again, I don't know how it ends. But again, in that situation, you can see a much more dangerous situation pertaining to people in the public, people around the immediate area. But again, no weapons were fucking pulled. But did they use deadly force in that instance? In which situation do you think was more dangerous? In which situation would they be more justified, do you think? But no, not in this situation. They escalated themselves. They made it. And again, when you see shit like this that we brought up on the show yesterday, let me throw this up there too, just to kind of reiterate. Homeland Security deploys white nationalist anti-immigrant graphics to recruit. Geez, I wonder what type of people that would attract. I wonder what type of people that is going to attract. And again, this doesn't specifically pertain to, this Ross asshole in the shooting, because allegedly he's been involved with the agency since 2016. But this goes directly to talk about the other actions, the other idiots that have now been newly recruited into this, and how some of this, propaganda, this immigrant propaganda, this says here, the Department of Homeland Security is using white nationalist imagery and language to recruit new employees and arrest immigrants. What's the main one? This one right here, right, where they posted the Homeland Security Twitter account posted. Think about how many criminal illegals you could fit into this bad boy, showing an old truck, right? Just think about what people that's meant to attract, who may have had that type of vehicle back in the day. And then it says, want to deport illegals with your absolute boys. right? You should, after a hard day of deporting illegals, sir, be able to kick back with your boys and laugh about what you just accomplished. And laugh about what you just accomplished in ruining somebody's life, in changing somebody's life forever, right? In directly impacting somebody's future. You should be able to laugh with your absolute boys. And you wonder why some of this shit is happening that we're seeing. And again, not that directly, again, pertains to this Ross guy who, again, allegedly has been part and affiliated with the group in the organization since 2016. But again, to the other aspects of how the other new recruits are acting and the people surrounding him are also escalating the situation. That's, I think, something we should probably look at and point out. But all right, let's get into thanking some people, and I'll get you fine motherfuckers out of here on time today so you can check out some fine coverage, some other independent creators, I'm sure. Let me see if there was anybody kind enough on Venmo. So just over the last couple of days, Christopher, thank you so much, brother. I really do appreciate the 5. Have a slice on me. I will probably do that exact thing, Christopher, if you don't mind. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Christopher, again from yesterday. Thank you again, Suzanne, from yesterday. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Moms. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Teague. These are all from the last couple days, so I just want to make sure everybody gets their props. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Allison. Let's see. Thank you, Yakov. Thank you, Dame, Linda, Elaine, all of you fantastic people. Let's see if we can thank some people over here on the Tubes of You side of things. Thank you, Mark. Mark says, hello, Boston Brian from Florida. Right back at you, brother. Very much appreciated. All of your contributions lately have been so well received and so very much appreciated, dude. I can't thank you enough. Case in point here, another 10 from Mark. Thank you, brother. Can't thank you enough for the $10 super chat there. Mark says, ICE reports of violence at schools. Yes, we also talked about this where the agents also went to the schools, tackled people, used pepper spray, pepper balls, handcuffed 2 officials. Witnesses told the local outlet. So very much appreciate you for bringing that up, Mark. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bicycle Mike, for the $2 super chat, my man. It's my birthday, and I'm home from the hospital. Let's fucking go, dude. Happy birthday, man. Happy birthday. Happy 21st. I hope you have a nice ice-cold beer on me. Good to see you finally made it to the big 2-1. Everybody in the chat, please make sure we're wishing Big Mike here a nice, happy, and healthy happy birthday from everybody here at Blunt Politics, everybody here, from my family to yours. Happy birthday, Mike. We very much appreciate you. We hope you are healthy and comfortable to the largest extent that you could possibly be. So good to hear that you're home from the hospital. Even better to hear that it's your birthday, my friend. I hope you celebrate with loved ones. I hope you celebrate with some good food, some drink maybe. Whatever you need, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and happy birthday, brother. Kim, thank you so much as well for the $2 super chat. Kim HR Guru says, please post Vance's lies in White House presser. Oh, I didn't even see that yet. There's been so much to cover all this. Let me see. Just give me a second here. Maybe there's a short JD Vance lies. Let me just see if I can put that up there. See if anything really quick comes up. JD Vance, Minneapolis. Maybe that pulls it up. 2 hours ago, JD Vance defends ICE agent who shot and kills woman in Minneapolis. We stand with ICE. That's about a 10-minute clip. Any short? Yeah, here's a short clip from it.
Very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago. That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
Oh, okay. So basically what JD Vance just did was to give direct evidence to suggest that man should be nowhere near an active duty position in law enforcement. Am I wrong, or is that what I'm getting? So to think that he's maybe not competent mentally, to think that he's maybe not capable of responding accurately and honestly and professionally mentally because of something he experienced in the past on the job, and how that could go to affect his judgment in the future. Is that not just what he just said? Let me just play that one more time and tell me if you guys get something different from this, and I'll let it all play, but let me know what you guys get.
That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media,
even though she did no attacking, no assaulting, and no doxing, none of those things that he's now suggesting were like the goals, the mission statements perpetrated and tried to enacted by, again, these radical left-wing terrorists, none of which those things actually took place. None of them. Just to drive that home.
Wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the president of the United States.
You know, those like all well-known domestic terror techniques, like, you know, turning the vehicle around in the road, or, you know, parking on the side of the road to, in some way, shape, or form, I guess you could stipulate, and try to impede somehow, right? Is that a known like a worldwide known terrorist tactic? Jesus Christ. And again, I just want to play the beginning one more time, because basically what he says here is that this officer should have been nowhere near active duty, that he was obviously clearly still thinking about what had happened to him, you know, years or months ago, wherever that took place, and that was still going through his brain, and that he couldn't make an accurate assessment on how to approach this situation, and acted not in accordance with the policies of the fucking agency, but because of his own emotional trauma, because of his own psychological inability to, again, comprehend the current situation, as opposed to the situation in which he was allegedly dragged from this vehicle. So listen up one more time, and I'll let you guys out of here.
That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
Forgive him. Basically what he's saying is, so forgive him for automatically thinking the first response should be to discharge, to pull out his firearm and to discharge that. Basically, excuse him. Give him a break, right? Sorry. He just went through some tough times, so we can't really hold him accountable for this action. Even though, again, there should be somebody responsible for the determination of saying, okay, this person is fit or not fit to go back into service. So this should be somebody directly responsible. I don't know if it's internal affairs or how that works with the DOJ or ICE or DHS or anything like that, but there should be somebody that these people have a meeting with after a certain traumatic situation happens, in order for them to determine if they have the psychological capabilities, right? If they're fit for duty, if they're fit for service, to go back into the line of duty, and to, again, make sure that they're able to react to a situation in the proper response, in the proper manner, and not determine that they're in some bigger threat. There's some bigger threat posed to them because of something that happened to them in the past. So somebody should be directly responsible for saying, yep, this guy should be allowed back into the fucking field. So let's see if we get that name sometime in the fucking future. I can highly doubt that's going to come out, but somebody should have signed off on this guy saying, yep, we've done everything we could possibly do. There should be some I don't know if they do like reporting. I don't know if they do tests. I don't know what they do as far as to be able to determine that this person is, again, mentally stable and mentally able to perform the duties of his fucking, of his job. But there should be something that we could look at as far as records. That's all I know. All right, let's get back into thanking people. Thank you so much, Kim, for pointing me in that direction. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. Salty, what's up, bro? Appreciate you, man. He says, one thing we're not talking about is what these guys talk about while they're in their vehicles, because I bet they're all jacked up from, again, absolutely right. It's a great point, too. That's a great point, too. Because it's not just the immediate actions that we see on camera, it's also the rhetoric stemming from that, which is why I continue to bring this up and just to go along with your point, Salty, this type of shit that we see in the recruiting tactics, right? There's a specific reason why they use these specific recruiting tactics to go after a specific subset of the population that they want to recruit, right? And then we can go on to, again, to going to Salty's comment here, to determine what these specific type of people that they're specifically trying to recruit may be talking about and engaging as far as rhetoric inside of these vehicles, what their goals state, how happy they are that the president and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have their back to the extent they can get away with pretty much anything. And they've been tasked to go into these neighborhoods and act brutally and have more power and hold more command over the fucking population than the local law enforcement does, right? So basically, they're operating above and beyond the law, pretty much like how Maduro had his paramilitary forces operating above and beyond the law. So that's now how these people portray themselves. They're now Donald Trump's fucking Gestamtspolizei, right? They are now the fucking, the guard that stands guard at the fucking at the chalet, at the Berghof, right? That's what these people are now. They are directly above all other agencies. They don't have to report to anybody but these people that are giving them tacit permission from the direct fucking top of the government to act as brutally, as violently, as fucking egregiously towards the public as possible to get the point across for them not being the public, being the protesters, being the left, to step up to the authority now being exposed, now being fucking shown all over the country. So appreciate you, Salty. Thank you so much. Thank you for the $10 contribution. Thank you, Jeff, once again. What is policy on staying at the scene of the shooting? I was actually pretty surprised to see what it stipulated on there, Jeff, but I appreciate you steering me towards that so we can kind of clarify. But again, as to that like fishy way that it was written as to what information the person kind of has to give while he's on the scene, like that's kind of a little whitewashy, if I do say so myself, and probably written purposefully, purposely vague like that. So Jeff, appreciate you pointing me to that direction. I love to be accurate and factual on the show as much as possible. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 5. Mark, thank you for the 2. Slow car, one could walk away from it. Again, that's the easiest possible position to be in. To get out of the fucking way is a car, again, not moving at all. Again, trying to accelerate on a fucking slick, wet, icy, snowy road, right? I mean, there's all of the fucking things. Again, these are things that you would think a well-trained professional would go over in his mind. The same way that we talk about, and I know it's not a one-to-one connection, but the same way that cops and law enforcement people go after the way that they pull somebody over on the highway, or the techniques that they use to stay safe while they're pulling somebody over the highway or behind a vehicle that's broken down on the highway, right? Like there's very distinct ways in which officers approach a vehicle, whether or not it's at a dead end road or if it's dark or light or if they got fucking backup or no backup, right? These are things that you have to take into account in the immediate fucking event of what's taking place in order to determine what actions you need. Where do I need to stand? Okay. Where is my partner lined up? Where is his, line of fire? I don't want to be standing in his line of fire. So maybe I should be over here by the quarter panel on this side so we could, not be shooting at like those little things. And those little aspects make and play a huge fucking role and make a big difference in making sure these situations don't get to the level we saw this situation get to. Right? And if I'm wrong, if there's, somebody with law enforcement training in the chat to stipulate that I'm wrong in anything that I'm saying, feel free, hammer away. I'm more than happy to listen. JD, thank you so much. And Mark, once again, thank you so much, brother. Thank you, JD. As always, man, I really just can't, I don't know how much more I could say. It very much appreciated you and the profanity bonus and the swear jar. It's the JD Christie swear jar at this point, I'm pretty sure. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Jeff is back. Let's go. Member for 16 months. First off, congratulations and thank you for that. Then he should have learned to stand back. Again, that's another way. I mean, if you look at all of the footage that you can look at and get the bigger picture on what happened, this guy was walking around filming, was parked on a very safe position where his vehicle was, where he didn't have to move. He could have given accurate fucking cover on the passenger side of the vehicle had he stayed where his vehicle was. So again, piss poor planning, piss poor execution, right? Not following procedure. How many different ways can we already point out in which this guy fucked up? I mean, there's about 12 of them already that we got it. But yes, Jeff, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your contribution. Congratulations again on being here for 16 months. Very much appreciated, man. Thank you, Jen, not only for being a great mod here, but also the contributions that you lent to us. Let's send Brian to law school. Imagine watching him argue a case. Has anybody ever argued a case in a Boston accent in a real court of law? That would be fucking funny. Your Honor, Your Honor, First, I'd like to stipulate that this fucking cocksucker over here did absolutely everything wrong as far as the investigation is concerned, Your Honor. I can see how that would go well, but I appreciate that. That might have to be like a skit I make at some point. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate you. I hope you're well. And tell Eric I said hello. Let's see here. Moms, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the $1.99. It'll be $1.25, Bishop. Appreciate that. And yes, Broken Hearts very much received as the sentiment of the day, Mom. So we're right there with you. We hope you're well. Thank you so much, Shocky. What's up, Shocky, for the super sticker? Let's go. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Beautiful scene that you got there in your picture. I love it. I'm a big sucker for a sunset and a sunrise, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you for watching from what looks to be across the pond, I shall say. So very much appreciated, dude. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Again, Bicycle Mike 42. Happy birthday. Be well. And that goes to from everybody here, too. I appreciate that, Mark. Very nice of you to throw that in there. Let's see here. Ruben, thank you so much. ICE equals Stephen Miller's Army. No denying that at this point. He's been wanting to use that for quite some time. Let's see here. Thank you so much, Ruben, as well. Thank you so much, Vinny. And again, that goes back to even like the implementation of what was it? Title 42, right? That was a lot to do with Stephen Miller as well. So he's been on this bigoted, hating immigrant train for a long time. So that goes along with what you're saying there, Ruben. Appreciate you, brother. Vinny, what's up, my dude? Appreciate the 10. Why can't they flatten a tire? Again, just any one of the actions. It shouldn't even have to come to that. I agree with your sentiment there. As for like, you know, the levels in which you would climb up the ladder of you know, escalation. So many different ways you could fucking handle that would not lead to injury, especially a death like that. So you're absolutely right. But, you know, again, there's probably 12 or 15 different steps that you could have taken even before you get to that point. You know what I mean? So I appreciate the 10. Appreciate you, Vinny. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you, Chris, as well. Heads on a swivel, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely something that I will second. I will reiterate, and no notes on that one. Make sure you're staying safe out there if you are getting out into the streets. I appreciate that very much, Chris. Good advice. Mark G gave another 5. Thank you so much, Mark. Vance is not Hitler, but he would lick Hitler's boots to gain a sliver of perceived power. Absolutely. As we've seen him do quite literally. Going from condemning Donald Trump as America's Hitler to now doing exactly that, which is licking, you know, in this case, Hitler's boots, Hitler being Donald Trump. And again, trying to get that sliver of perceived power, which he's on his way to get. I got to say, whether or not people actually believe he could take over this, I don't know, I'm not going to call it a movement, but, you know, that fucking slice of idiocy over there on the Republican side and accurately kind of moving in the direction like Donald Trump did, I still think remains to be seen. I don't think anybody really trusts him without Donald Trump. You know, I think as long as he's with and beside Donald Trump, he's got this air of trustworthiness that Trump gives him for the people on the right. Obviously not anybody over here. But as soon as Donald Trump's out of that picture, as soon as the cheeseburgers and Diet Cokes take effect and Donald Trump and in his lungs take his last breath and that heart fucking moves a beat for the last time on this earth, I don't know if MAGA is going to be so willing to give J.D. Vance the benefit of the doubt. Oh, thank you, Bobby. Bobby just sent in a $5 Venmo. Thank you for all that you do, she says, Brian. Thank you so much, Bobby. I appreciate that. Very, 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 very nice of you. Make sure I say thanks for that one. Thank you, Bobby. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that one. But yes, great point, Mark. Pretty much what we're seeing in real time as J.D. Vance is trying to, but I don't think he will get the benefit of the doubt as he gets right now while being kind of that secondhand man playing second fiddle to Trump. I just don't think he's going to, these idiots aren't going to be willing to hand him the tiki torch, you know, if you will, to take the power. I just don't think he has that. So I appreciate you, Mark. Thank you so much. You're spot on that one. Ruben, ICE escalated the situation. There's just absolutely no way to determine anything other than that, Ruben. You're 100% right. There's just no other way to determine with a clear fucking conscience that anything other than that happened. And to round it out today, I want to say thank you to Just Saying. I appreciate you. Thank you for the 5. Damn, had to give something up for that Boston prosecutor accent. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know how many cases I'd win. You know, I don't know how many cases I'd win, but I would definitely be an entertaining lawyer. I can tell you that much. A prosecutor, a lawyer. I can't even say the actual job titles. Never mind fucking represent those professions. Oh, man. All right. Well, another great show. Unfortunate circumstances, obviously, that we're covering here, but very important nonetheless. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out, no matter how much time that is, to spend it here at Blunt Politics with me. I'm Boston Brian. You've just spent the time with the fantabulous chat, the most fantabulous chat on the internet, if I do say myself. What do you say we bring you guys in for the send-off? There you are. What's up, guys? How are you? And so I appreciate you mods, every single one of you. You are fantastic. I can't thank you enough. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your services. Watch out for that Zoom link going out on the Patreon website for tonight's Zoom link. And yeah, otherwise, I will see you tomorrow for the Friday show. That is 2 p.m. on the East Coast, 11 a.m. here on the West Coast. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Again, I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive, but keep your head on a swivel out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're out there raising hell, if you're out there using your God-given rights to protest in this country, please make sure you're staying safe. Make sure you're with some friends and some family if you can. Make sure you know your exits. Make sure you know the environment that you're in. Make sure you know the neighborhoods that you're in. And please make sure you have a way to get out of there quickly if anything does kick off. But please keep your head on your shoulders. Make sure that head is on a swivel and take care of yourself. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Thank you so much for helping this channel grow. I can't thank you enough. I really can't. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers. And with your help, we can get there. So please hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you. I'm out of here. If I could just find that button now and hopefully not screw this up. Yes, Rocks. Thank you so much to all of you guys. Mark, me, Rocks, Jen, Lopera, all of you guys. Adam, even if you weren't here today, all of you guys are fantastic. I can't thank you enough. Tiffany, even Tanya. I'd love to see Kirby back in the game. If anybody knows where Kirby's hiding out, let's see if we can find that guy. I really like him. But I appreciate all of you guys. I really do. Pops, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your support. Appreciate everybody, Mom, Dad, Tim, Kel, love you guys. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes that helped out as well. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Logan. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. God bless the United States.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
We appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time.
He says rectum damn near killed him.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated?
Taking him back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses.
China has total respect for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump's very, very large brain.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
In the hell was that all about?
I am the chosen one. I am the chosen one.
Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off.
Refer to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small.
Always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
He builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
Is there anything worse than white people?
This week it was reported that an illegal and you just look at this, what's happening. You're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
He's always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
How do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president? Seriously, how do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president?
Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Where you going? Nowhere.
Tell the director to call the White House. Do your fucking job!
This guy's been drunk all day.
Gavin Newsom is going to sign those papers. And if he doesn't sign those papers, we won't give him money to put out all his fires.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it. I've become an expert on guns.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it.
Fucking Nazis. White people are a mortal danger to you and your loved ones.
We always do about this time.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. A revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
Venezuela. Did you just see Maduro? Venezuela, it's unbelievable.
All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Very much appreciate you. Hit that like button on the way out. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
The big, fat, sloppy United States.